And our top focus in World DNA, dealing a major blow to Netanyahu, Israeli War Cabinet Minister Benny Gantz has quit.
Now, Gantz's resignation, it's the latest sign of rising domestic dissent over Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's handling of the war in Gaza and is the first major political blow to him during this conflict.
Well, his departure means that Netanyahu will lose the backing of a centrist bloc that has helped broaden support for the government in Israel and abroad. Netanyahu issued a plea and urged Gantz to set aside his plans. He asked Gantz not to abandon the front.
However, Benny Gantz's departure will not endanger the parliamentary majority of 64 seats in the 120 Knesset held by the ruling right-wing coalition. The war cabinet minister's resignation was expected ever since he gave Netanyahu a June 8th deadline to come up with a clear day-after strategy for Gaza.
Regrettably, Netanyahu is preventing us from advancing towards true victory, which is the justification for the ongoing and painful cost of this war. That is why we are leaving the emergency government today with a heavy heart but with full confidence.
The Israeli minister's resignation came after IDF fought gun battles with Hamas militants in central Gaza's crowded Nusayrat refugee camp area as they freed the 4 Israeli captives. IDF claimed that the extraction team and captives came under heavy gun and grenade fire, which killed 1 police officer, while Israel's Air Force launched strikes that reduced nearby buildings to rubble. The health ministry in the Hamas-run territory said that 274 people were killed. Palestinian civilians were killed and 698 wounded in what they claimed as Nusayrat massacre.
Are you talking about 210 martyrs to claim that you freed hostages? Netanyahu, do you believe yourself that you freed prisoners? Do you destroy a whole house and kill 210 martyrs to free hostages?
Meanwhile, the Russian family of a rescued Gaza hostage was reunited with their son after 8 months of Hamas captivity. 27-year-old Andrei Kozlov was taken hostage from the Nova Music Festival on the 7th of October, where he was working as a security guard. Kozlov was one of 4 hostages rescued from central Gaza in what Israel said was a special operation held under intense fire from Hamas militants.
We are very happy to see that he is healthy. He looks healthy, looks happy. He is infinitely happy that he is back home. We are infinitely happy to see him. He laughs, he jokes, he enjoys communicating with all of us, with his family, with doctors, with the people who surround him. He is open to communication. He told us that every day in captivity he thought about his family and those people who were close to him. These thoughts helped him survive, and these thoughts helped him stay alive, healthy and sane in his own mind.
According to Israeli authorities, 116 hostages remain in Gaza, more than 40 of whom have been declared dead. Amid the raging battle in Gaza, US has once again urged Israel to operate differently to avoid the loss of innocent lives as it carries out missions like the one that rescued 4 Israeli hostages but resulted in the deaths of numerous Palestinians.
We are concerned about every loss of life, including in this operation. Anytime civilians are killed, we're concerned. Of course we are. That's why we want this war to end. The only way to get all of the hostages out and to end any more civilian casualties in Gaza is to get to a comprehensive ceasefire and hostage agreement. So the two are not distinct issues, they're connected issues. How do we end the death of civilians in Gaza, Martha? There is only one way, it is to get to a comprehensive ceasefire and hostage deal. That's what President Biden laid out. And that is, again, what he is reinforcing today, because Hamas accepting that deal would bring an end to the tragedy in Gaza.
All right, to discuss this further, Colonel David Biederosh, professor at Near East South Asia Center for Strategic Studies, National Defense University, is joining us on the show today. Sir, thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Sir, of course, as you know, the Israeli war cabinet member Benny Gantz has resigned. Now, this leaves Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu more reliant on the far-right allies of his government. Of course, the centre bloc, it had helped broaden the support for his government as well. Where does this leave the Netanyahu government now?
Well, they're in a somewhat perilous position. I think that what led to this was you had a government of national unity to prosecute the war after the massacres and hostage-taking on October 7th. But as the war has raged on, Israel's strategic position in the world has deteriorated. The conduct of the war has led to a loss of international support for Israel. And you've also seen arguments within Israel over what will be, the end state for Gaza and indeed for the West Bank as well, once this war is over. Netanyahu's refused to discuss that. I don't think he really can, because he doesn't want to alienate the right-wing parties, as you note, in his coalition. But he was only able to kick it down so far. And with the end of the military operations being close to in sight, they could be over within 2 months. I think Benny Gantz said, look, why should I support this government when they won't offer a policy prescription for what happens the day after? It's also worth noting that Gantz's own political popularity was declining because of his support for Netanyahu. So there's that impetus as well.
Right. Colonel Roches, in the past few months during Israel's war in Gaza, Benny Gantz has been an integral person who has been talking with the Biden administration. Talk to us about how Gantz's resignation is being viewed in Washington, D.C., and how will it perhaps impact Biden's peace proposal in the ongoing war?
Well, good question. So I think the Biden administration views Netanyahu as unable or unwilling to moderate Israel's military operations in Gaza. I think the Biden administration feels that they have a way to get back the hostages and to keep Israel secure. I think that Netanyahu and the members of his ruling coalition feel that they can't really secure Israel unless they have militarily destroyed the entire Hamas military organization. And I think that for a while, I think that Gantz may actually agree with that. But there is a practical question, which is, okay, once you've done all this, what do you do with Gaza? How do you govern it? And Netanyahu's been unable to address that, or unwilling to address that. Netanyahu ran against Gantz. Gantz, I think, supported the fight against Hamas. But the time is now to come up with is this going to be something that Israel has to do every 5 years? Or can there actually be a real solution? The fact that Netanyahu is unwilling to discuss that, I think, put Gantz in a bad position. But the Biden administration certainly would prefer to deal with Gantz than Netanyahu.
Absolutely, sir. In fact, I was just going to come to this next. Of course, the main bone of contention was that there was no day after plan for Gaza. And you also mentioned that this has put Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu in a perilous position. That being said, do you reckon we will see any sort of a change in strategy when it comes to the war in Gaza?
Well, there's not really a strategy. There's a lot of tactics, and the tactics are, military. Strategy has to integrate political outcome with tactics and with economics and information. Israel is losing the information war internationally, and they're losing their strategic position is deteriorating, as I noted. I think that Netanyahu and his coalition seem to think that if they solve the military problem of Hamas, they can then somehow address later on the political solution. But Gantz's position is in keeping with standard counterinsurgency doctrine, which is you have to have a political move in parallel with the military move if you are to resolve an insurgency. And Hamas is a very well-armed insurgency. So I think Gantz has both political, strategic, and tactical reasons for breaking with Netanyahu at this point.
Right. Thank you, Colonel Roches, for taking our time and joining us here on World DNA with your insights.
Thank you.